Right, welcome to episode 5 of the Sporting Chancellors podcast presented by themeltingpress.com. This is Conor Hayes here. I'm joined by Colm Booth, James McDermott and Dave Hughes. Welcome back. We really missed you last week.
Miss you too.
Good.
Well, come on. Don't lie to him.
Yeah,
he probably heard it. He probably heard how much fun we were having in his absence. And to be honest, I'm surprised.
I cried a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. The tempo was much better. Right. Anyway, moving on.
The standard.
Yeah, probably more the standard of discourse. Yeah.
It's okay, Dave.
That's the first and last time discourse will be used.
Let Conor start.
Maybe. Right, we're going to start with football for once. Premier League. And basically, we're going to look at the Irish players coming into year 2012, but we will start with the biggest story of the weekend, which was Wigan managed to win at Anfield, which was fantastic. Roberto Martinez's favourite quote, he said, well, at least Liverpool tried to play the game in the right way, in a real patronising way, which I really enjoyed. So, Kenny Dalglish, James McDermott, if he wasn't a Liverpool legend, do you think he'd been sacked by now?
Well, you only need to look at the amount of time Roy Hodgson was given, and you'd see that, yes, he would have been sacked by now.
Even allowing for the cup runs?
Even allowing for the cup runs. I mean, I don't think a club of Liverpool's stature can really rely on cup runs. Cup team is not a compliment for a club that claims, it is most celebrated in England, if we're being completely honest.
Let's have a look. Arsenal haven't won a trophy in 7 years. They managed to muck up the League Cup final last year. And Liverpool could still end the season with 2 trophies. So is that not a good point?
I think on that point, do you remember Tadhg's first game back was in the FA Cup? So, and if we're going on keeping the same criteria with Hodgson and Dalglish, then I know it's third round of the FA Cup or whatever it was. So
you're saying that Hodgson could have had a cup run if he was given
time? Yeah, that wasn't given time for that.
Also, Wenger can, and first of all, lots of people were calling for Wenger's head, but Wenger can rely on the fact he's had title-winning sides before. The Invincibles were under Wenger. Dalglish has to go back to two decades ago to get his Liverpool successes back out of the drawer and put them back to his faces.
There is definitely an issue that he was out of the game a very long time.
Long time.
It should be mentioned he's one of 3 managers, I think, to have won the First Division or Premier League with 2 different clubs. So to completely discount him at this point, obviously things aren't going well. But to completely discount him, I'm not sure that that's fair, because a lot of the problems with Liverpool this season have been to do with their inability to incorporate big money signings, if not big name signings, over the course of the season. And Damien Connolly was appointed before Dalglish, so obviously the board seemed reluctant enough to appoint Dalglish. The caretaker managership lasted quite a long time before he was formally appointed. Connolly was there beforehand, so it was Connolly who was you'd have to assume doing the scouting for these players.
No, you were right. You said it before. I looked it up. Connolly's role is player recruitment. There is that in his thing. So, and it is what people throw in. Basically, he's Hodgson's record plus with 100 million in spent. And so that looks really, really damning. But then it's who spent that 100 million? And
exactly. Yeah.
Connolly's record overall in his career, again, I had a look, very mixed.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, he brought players like Berbatov to Spurs, but he also brought players like David Bentley to Spurs. So you've got to kind of add that in together.
Yeah.
So if Connolly is completely in charge of transfers, then the Dalglish thing is interesting. What I think is that Dalglish has a history of walking. Obviously, the first Liverpool walkout, that was under very trying circumstances, and that was really, really understandable. But Blackburn won the league, left fairly soon after. Newcastle
sacked.
Okay,
he was sacked. I haven't got the team to second.
It's not like Newcastle to sack managers. But he does have a history.
He lost dressing room at that stage, was the big
thing. This is the thing. So I'm wondering, will he himself in the summer have a look and walk away? But you would think the way he dug his heels in over Suarez, do you think maybe that he is in for the long haul?
I do think he is, yeah. I think there's something there's a point to prove about him in this term as Liverpool manager. I think when he took over, it was kind of a Kenny saving the club kind of feel about it. I'm not sure he would walk away. I think if I was in charge, I'd have to think long and hard before giving him another 100 million. I know Connolly's still in charge, but you get rid of one or other, or both.
I think an interesting thing he has on his side as well is that dressing room itself. I think Gerard's been a huge backer of Dalglish the whole time. I think Gerard seems to control the dressing room.
Again, it does. The English players at the English clubs do seem to, with the exception of Man United, you'd probably say, because only one man controls that dressing room.
Yeah, completely. But Hodgson seemed to have lost the dressing room last year.
Oh, completely.
And it doesn't seem to have the same state of affairs with Dalglish at the minute. It's just poor results.
Yeah, it happens when managers have, that aren't perceived to be kind of big time managers come with big time players. Brian Kerr at Republic of Ireland. Lots of people say the players never really talked to him, even though he had helped them through their younger stage, like the stages early on in their career.
Very interesting about Brian Kerr. Brian Kerr, his training methods were actually very similar to what Giovanni Trapattoni brought in, but because Trapattoni, like Dalglish, has a pedigree of managing big teams, winning things with big teams, it's much easier for players to listen. And that, I think that is understandable. You're obviously going to listen more to a guy like Trapattoni than you are Brian Kerr. Whether that's right is a different thing, but it's just a fact of life. You're going to listen. You're going to more.
It's fair. It's understandable.
It is understandable. I think it was particularly strange with Ireland, given the players had already been under Brian Kerr and would have already respected him for what he did at underage level. But I definitely agree with your point.
Well, yeah, I think the underage point can actually undermine the coach.
Yeah.
Why should I be listening to this guy when I was listening to him 8 years ago? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look how much I've gone on from this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, I agree.
Actually, that brings us on nicely to the Irish team, and we've got a bit of time today, so we will have a look at the Irish players because the year 2012 is getting closer and closer. James McLean's performance against QPR was absolutely brilliant again. So I suppose he's our most informed player, would you say, Dave?
I think so, yeah. You look at, even from the match of the day highlights, all the panels, even on Sky, they're just raving about him every week. Everyone's calling for his inclusion, except for Trapattoni himself.
And it's true, and he only got 11 minutes in the friendly.
So and he was trying too hard as well in the friendly, you could see.
Yeah, if you're given 11 minutes to try to prove yourself, you're going to try too hard, because the main thing he brings to the game is he's a very good runner with the ball. He takes on defenders, and it wasn't a case where he could pick and choose his times to do that. He only had 11 minutes. He had to do it every single time he got the ball, and even still, he was quite effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I really like about him, much like Bale, is that he's very, very strong. And he can hold off challenges when he needs to, and that's so.
He can tackle himself.
Yeah,
what I very much like about him as well is he has an engine and he's fast, and I can understand why Trapattoni is reluctant to bring players in centre midfield, in even players up front you have to drop back in midfield like Keane, or anywhere across the back four, because there's a system to be played. But what the system asks of the wingers is very straightforward, and it's something McLean could do easily. In fact, it suits McLean better than Duff.
McLean works really, really hard. I've seen him now. Maybe obviously we watch the highlights every week, but I've seen him now about four live games, and it's work rate. He's a very hard working player, so he's a perfect trap winger. There's no issue there. It's not like he's a nanny.
Completely.
And also we get precious few opportunities in the final third for Ireland. And I watched the full Blackburn match when they lost. He put in 4 spectacularly good final deliveries. And if you can do that for Ireland, if you have Robbie there,
And another dimension we haven't really looked is his aerial ability as well,
really
which is
Duff, much like Bale.
Duff is quite poor in the air. Obviously, McGeady's obviously poor in the air as well. And
we are going to score. We are looking to score goals from set pieces.
Completely. And look how many chances he gets in the air, and he's missed an awful lot. But his first goal was the header. And he's getting in positions.
He's getting headers. The only thing I would say, to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, is that wingers often
have form.
Yeah, come on the scene and then they're kind of figured out to a certain extent. I've used them already today, but David Bentley would be a perfect example. There was that season with Blackburn where he scored a hat-trick against Man United.
I think June is still probably earlier than he's only found out. You bring him June while he's in form, and maybe he might have second season syndrome.
But he's not into a second season yet.
No, maybe he will next year. But who cares?
Yeah.
At the Euros, he's him.
The Euros is different because it's not the Premiership. They're not analysing week in week out. I don't know how much the Italians are going to look into it. The Spaniards are going to look into it. Really,
I don't think they're going to be too afraid of it.
No, they're not.
He'll still have the same kind of fearless attitude. It'll be his first time.
You'd imagine the Italians will look into it, though, considering. But first of all, their love of tactics, and secondly, the quality of our recent results against them.
You don't really have to do that much tactical research on Ireland because we play the same team obviously not week in, week out, but game in, game out, and Trapattoni is the only manager in the world now who names his teams 4 days beforehand.
Yeah,
which is just it's amazing. He's just so old school. It's ridiculous.
And the system never changes, no matter who you're facing. But
I'm not really trying to bash drop here, but it is a point.
no, I'm not saying the system not changing isn't the problem. I just don't think
he fits into the system.
Yeah, exactly. I understand to a certain extent why players like McCarthy is written off as a centre midfield option and Gibson written off as a centre midfield option in that system. But McLean fits the system perfectly. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be brought. I'd still bring Duff. I'm not sure about Hunt. I think there's a question mark over Hunt.
I agree.
Well, Hunt is backup anyway. Of course, I would.
Yeah, so McLean should be that backup.
Yeah,
that's my argument.
Quite possibly. Okay, we're going to move on. I think we're kind of in agreement.
Oh, just it's an interesting observation to make that all we need is a Welshman, and we really are the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. You know, we have a Scotsman, Englishman, Northern Irish, and the Republic, all contained under the banner of our great nation.
The one exception has to be the Northern Irish boys. I mean, if they choose to represent the Republic of Ireland, there's a reason they choose to represent the Republic of Ireland. It's a political statement.
Well, it's the same with
nationality.
This is an issue you're not going to wrap up in a minute. So I'm definitely going to move on from that. But
if you look at the recent developments in Northern Ireland,
we'll call it the Good Monday Agreement.
Very good. You watched Newcastle versus West Brom.
I did.
Andrew started.
But came off at half time. He was very poor. He got destroyed by a couple of times. He looked very. It didn't look like he was completely out of sorts once the last few weeks have been coming up against kind of. He's scoring against Wolves. He scored in games where he hasn't been coming against very good midfields. But
Newcastle midfield, one of the best in the Premier League.
It really is, and he was even Guthrie destroyed him a couple of times as well, which is kind of a worrying. He's had a good season, but he still is a very, very average footballer.
That's
he's taken off. Long came on for him at half time.
Interesting, and then Long scored, but it was one of the worst defensive errors I've ever seen.
He put the pressure on. You know, he ran the channels and he did more than he could ask.
Would you blame Krul at all for that as a bit of an aside, or was it completely the defender's fault? Krul
didn't shout. You can see. But Williamson should have got to the ball first. So hoofed it first. It's a
one of the few mistakes Krul has made all season.
Yeah, Williamson kind of tends to be a bit error prone. So
And Papa Cisse, this is completely off the point, but he's exactly as we kind of said. You know, someone just to finish the chances.
Yes, Newcastle needed, to be honest, because they had obviously a bad, but best Lovenkrands. I mean, we're not going to take all the chances to get. So
no, and what a season! Level on points with Chelsea, and it's a great achievement. Okay, back to the Irish issue. Yeah. Wolves. They're going down. There's no doubt about it.
Seems to be.
So you have.
I don't know. I have faith in Terry Connor.
You are the only one.
I heard calls for
even Terry Connor.
I heard calls for McCarthy's reappointment there.
That's actually happened. Palermo this season, they've gone through four coaches, and the fourth coach was the guy they sacked at the very beginning of the season, which is just brilliant. So you look at Wolves. So you have Ward, you have Doyle, obviously, and then you have Hunt. Now Hunt and Doyle have gone down before with Reading and have been brought back up. Ward obviously never has. Out of those three, do we think any of them would stay in the Premier League? Do you think anyone would buy them?
I still think, despite a very patchy season, Doyle will be snapped up during the summer.
I think he could be. I'm not certain he would be. I mean, he's gone down before and no one bought him. People tried, but he stayed down. I'm not sure if people would be
as interested. 6 months or something.
I'm not sure if people would be as interested now as they were back then. I mean, he has had very poor form. As for Ward and Hunt, I really don't think anyone would take them.
I can see Ward being at Wolves for the next few seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I have to agree with people.
I could see Wilson being our only international left back playing in the Premier League.
Please goodness. Please goodness.
What?
Well, that he'd be an international left back for us, as opposed to
that's in exile.
Yeah, seems like a weird prayer.
In terms of Hunt, it's a strange. Hunt has.
Is he even starting for Wolves though? He's
had bad injuries this season. To be fair to him, he's never had to hit a streak of 3 or 4 games in a row, which he really need.
But he's been on the bench a lot. It's not been out to injuries. He's been sprung from the bench. He's only had 14, 15 starts. And then he's had 9 or 10 sub appearances.
But the injuries have really held him back. He's coming back from injuries a lot. I mean, he's not had a run of games.
McLean's almost had as much starts, more assists, more goals.
Yeah.
When did he start? In November or whenever?
Exactly.
Whenever
Sunderland's good form started as well.
It's no coincidence.
No, it's not. So we move on to the Man City Stoke game, and we'll start with Whelan. What do we think?
Whelan's busy as ever. He seems to be kind of focal point of the
His form for Stoke this season is really good, and he's probably actually our best midfielder in terms of form. That's
that was almost BBC-esque and serving national interest to mention Whelan before Crouch's volley.
I'm looking at it was,
but yeah, no,
it's called Sporting Chances for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think I thought Whelan was busy and he was playing against a very, very good midfield.
Exactly.
I suppose you could make the point that he's playing in a team where they don't have the ball a lot, but I'd argue that he's playing for Ireland.
Exactly.
But his distribution for Stoke has always been brilliant, really good.
It's an odd one why you can't do it for Ireland. And I honestly don't think Trapp goes out and tells Glenn Whelan and Andrews don't pass the ball. Like that would be ludicrous. So they just maybe they're a bit nervous. I don't know.
I suppose he was less to hit.
That could be it. Well, that could be it too. Speaking of the people he can, in Crouch's goal, we should mention it. Well, what a goal! I let out a high pitched squeal.
So Stan Collymore actually as well.
Oh, really? Did he? Well, me and Stan are best mates, and we share a lot of interests. It was just incredible, and the height at which he struck it, obviously because he's so tall anyway, but the height at which he struck it reminded me of Bale's one last season, but it was from way further out, which makes it an absolutely incredible goal.
Yeah, that was.
And then City again.
Got lucky.
Yeah, they got a deflected goal off Shawcross head. I mean, their away form is just woeful. They brought Tadhg back and it worked against Chelsea, but it didn't really help them. He only had 20 minutes.
Balotelli looked poor, really bad.
Really, really poor. I think obviously we're recording this before United play. So we don't know how that's going to go, but
we assume it won't be a poor result for them.
No, I don't think so. I think it could be a good result. I honestly can't see Fulham getting anything there. This is going to be the classic play it back when Fulham get a result. But
completely,
I don't think
it will be. Yeah, they'll be showing this for years.
Oh, the humiliation in the national press will be immense. Right, just the first game of the weekend was Chelsea versus Spurs, and I was very impressed with Spurs because even though the draw suited them, in the last few minutes it was actually they who were attacking and they who went and tried to win the game, which is great to see because obviously draw really suited them. Chelsea were very, very like on Wednesday night against Man City, just very, very stodgy in midfield, not really playing much football at all.
No.
And what was the funniest thing, the most enjoyable part of the game for me was the Sky commentary. Gary Neville and Martin Tyler. I assume it was about 18 degrees in London, maybe. And Gary Neville was like, "Oh, the heat. They're going to struggle in the heat. Like half the players on the pitch are from Africa.
Yeah.
They're around oh, Didier Drogba from the Ivory Coast will be struggling with the oppressive London heat. That March heat will kill you." That was the most enjoyable part of the game. Unfortunately, the last few kind of top six clashes haven't been quite as good as the first batch, which were absolutely brilliant. So hopefully that changes. And then maybe look at the England job, the situation. Harry still hasn't been
ratified.
Well, yeah, it hasn't been thrown. Do you think maybe they're coming up
thinking about it?
It's an awful lot of more backing towards Roy Hodgson recently. Apparently, the bookmakers have seemed to.
They've come in on, have they?
Yeah, completely.
I suppose that the thing with Hodgson is, he had the big job. He got the big job, and it went so badly. Maybe not as badly as it looks now, but he definitely got the big job, and he wasn't able to deal with the egos. And as we know, the England team is just full of it.
But he does have a track record in international management. He has had quite a lot of success as a manager.
I think the one selling point Harry has over anyone else is his influence over the media, because the FA themselves are acutely aware that the media controls a lot of obviously controls public opinion.
That's what's done for McLaren very early. There was a great story about McLaren that it was the first New Year's after his appointment, and he texted all the journalists saying, Happy New Year, and hope to see you again, and or I can't wait to see you again during the New Year. And all the journalists just thought this guy was an absolute sap. So that's the kind of thing I think Harry would be.
And they were right.
Cause a theory that the English media picked the team, not the manager.
Oh, which is completely true.
But if the English media picks the team Harry wants them to pick, because that's what happens.
I
also think it could be worth it for that moment where you have to realise, will the media pick Harry or pick the team to bite down on? They always pick the manager.
Does Harry not just pick the team? I think Harry plays them up so much that he's actually... The media have him too. If you look at it...
That's an interesting point. I'm not sure though. I suppose there is definitely a mutual playing off against each other. And they both get stuff out of it, because Harry gets to roll down the Sky.
Just not Rob Palmer.
Sky gets to roll down the window, and he gets to, I'm not interested in any players, and then he goes and signs a player, and they're like, wily old Harry's got us again. Which he should have done at the court case. Actually, he should have been giving his evidence through a window on Sky. So yeah, I probably choose Hodgson, but I suppose
I think you can now with all the players even backing.
Yeah, I thought Hodgson would do very well.
I would choose Hoddle.
Yeah, Hodgson come out today, says he wants the job. He made his pitch according to BBC. His record in England is very good.
It's very good.
He said he couldn't die with that unfinished business. Probably fearing for his reincarnated children.
That's what I was going to say. He could be reincarnated as the England manager. Did he not consider that possibility? Or maybe he was Alf Ramsey in the past life. He doesn't know.
No, he doesn't know.
So we got.
He's clueless. Shocking.
He's an awful nutshell. But I suppose each their own and all that. But I suppose it's one of the most creative ways anyone will ever be. Forced out of a job.
Yeah.
Their views on disabled people and the afterlife. It's just not something you hear that often, is it?
No, it's one of the more peculiar ones.
Absolutely. Right, we're okay.
Not to say the masseuse, but anyway, go on.
Oh, yeah,
the masseuse, yeah.
Look that up, lads.
I wouldn't mind that again at the major championships.
No.
Maybe they should hire.
It'd be completely entertaining. They probably should hire Pierce. It would just, the hilarity would be amazing. Maybe his brother is the sister as well.
Roddy Collins.
Do a documentary, the Rod Squad.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to move on. We're going to move on to rugby. We're going to look at the Munster playing Leinster next weekend.
Yeah, in Thomond. And
the game, kind of, Leinster have dominated this fixture in recent years, except for the Magners League final last year.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it's 6 and 7 wins, 7 and 8 wins.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So do we think that's on it? Leinster had a very bad defeat at the weekend.
They had a bad defeat at the weekend, but once again, kind of, when they were on this run of 20 games unbeaten. And within that, there'd been a few close calls, a couple of draws, and they just kind of got caught by the Ospreys sort of at the death, and a very peculiar conversion which hit the top of the post, and I'm not sure whether it bounced back in. I saw a couple of angles, one where it looked like it bounces back in, and another where it looks like it just goes straight over the post.
It certainly seemed there was enough doubt not to give it. But they gave it. Obviously, I mean, Leinster are still way ahead. Obviously, and it's tough.
Yeah, they still have 8 points on Munster at the top.
Could be a good thing. Give them a wake up call before Harding Cup action.
Yeah, definitely.
And how did O'Driscoll play?
O'Driscoll seemed lively when he played. The RTE highlighted one really good steal on the ground, which in light of Ireland's lack of an open side flanker, and Leinster similarly. Yeah, if Shane Jennings doesn't play, can use his abilities on the ground. That is a great thing about
O'Driscoll. He does the work of forwards as well. Remember the try against England. He got really low and went over the line. Complete forwards try. He's
fantastic, just absolutely fantastic player. And on that Leinster team now, I know neither of them are in their prime, but on the Leinster team that ran out to face the Ospreys, you had Brad Thorne and Brian O'Driscoll, and they're both guys who, if you're putting down, the best 15 of the professional era in world rugby, both of them would have very strong cases to make.
Put them there. So looking ahead to that match, do we give Munster a chance, or are they are an inferior team to Leinster? That's not.
Yeah,
that's not
certainly on paper they are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I suppose when it was a bigger deal for them in the Magners League final, because it was obviously going to be a big deal for them because that was their only chance.
Well, and also now, in fairness, Leinster had that stunning comeback against Northampton the week before, so they're very emotionally drained.
Yeah, after the Lord Mayor show, definitely. Do we think that Munster have a chance then? I'm
sorry. Once in rugby, the home advantage is a huge thing. Munster would be very, very up for it. Particularly, they came quite close. Earlier on in the season, it was a 1-score victory for Leinster, so they'll definitely be looking to gear up for the Heineken Cup coming the week after by beating Leinster.
And obviously that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's kind of get into a rhythm. You don't want to go off a defeat against your biggest rivals.
Well, that's it. Leinster, and both teams will have to reincorporate a lot of their Ireland team. Leinster bringing in last week, they brought in Brad Thorne. Leo Cullen had a long layoff, and of course Brian O'Driscoll, and now they're on top of that. Now they're trying to reincorporate a lot of the Irish lads. So I mean, it's hard to tell how much fluidity either team will be able to bring to the pitch.
Just on the Thorne issue, do you think if you were a second row, playing for Leinster, a young second row, would you be annoyed, or is it a case of needs must?
I think it's a case of needs must. If you look at who Leinster have in the second row. they'd assumed Leo Cullen was going to be out a bit longer than he has been. Behind him, there's Damien Brown, he's an Irishman from Galway, but he's in his 30s and he's a journeyman kind of a pro. He's not bringing Thorne in ahead of him. Certainly isn't holding back a young Irish player in the position.
A thorny issue, nonetheless. Right.
Oh, Conor.
Hey, look, we're all here for good puns. Right, so we're going to move on after that to the cricket. I said last week that Ireland were in a spot of bother. They needed to win 3 games in 3 days, and they managed it. They were absolutely brilliant. They basically hammered everyone they came up against, even a team that maybe who beat them early in the tournament. Paul Sterling was really, really impressive, and a little too impressive, because England will be certainly looking at him going forward to playing their 2020 team. He's a perfect one-day batsman. He's not going to play Test, although he's so young. I think he's 21, 22 years old. So there's always that chance. He hit in the final of the tournament after they qualified. They won 2 games on the same day, and in the final, the second game, he hit a 50 off 17 balls, which is ridiculous. Which means you're scoring at 3 a ball, and it also means that it was the second fastest T20 100 ever. So that was really good.
We all know the English love Sterling as well, which is
very good.
Yeah.
That's even worse.
Oh, very good.
That's even worse than my one. So it was fantastic to see. RTE even bothered to show some cricket, which was an unbelievable moment.
Was it?
I thought you were telling me earlier on in the day that.
Basically there was an issue. I'd watched Match of the Day, and then the cricket highlights were supposed to come on in my sad life in 30 seconds. But the cricket was supposed to come on, and I was sitting down, I was getting ready to watch the cricket, and on comes the Father Ted music, and I hit the eye on this the sky button. What's this? And still 2020 cricket supposed to be on, and no, it was the Brendan Grace episode.
Oh well, come on, you can't complain about that.
I said on the Twitter account, that's a plug right there, that I was to the RT. I said I enjoy my Father Ted, but I was hoping to watch some cricket.
Yeah.
Apparently Royal Nugent came on and said there was some problem with the satellite. So vintage RTE,
Classic Royal. Looking forward to September, Conor.
Yes, no, I am looking forward to September. They're in a group with the West Indies and Australia, and 2020 is in such a way is the easiest that you can cause a shock, because it's the most kind of random, if you will.
Haphazard,
yeah, because the Netherlands, who we absolutely hammered even as short as 3 or 4 years ago, beat England out. So there is always the opportunity to cause upsets with big teams. We've caused upsets with big teams in 50 overs, so I think we can do it in 20 overs. But I wouldn't, I wouldn't say you definitely back us or whatever, because they are much better teams. They're fully professional. They have a first class structures and all that. Stuff we can only dream of. What's great about Ireland in this tournament was the depth of talent they actually showed. Mostly in the bowling area. They lost Mooney and they lost Cusack, and they were still able to perform really well in the bowling. They didn't bring Niall O'Brien through a disciplinary issue. Basically, he chose to play in the Bangladesh Premier League, living the dream, and so he wasn't brought, and that does affect our batting. It's always, whatever it is about Ireland, we always produce perfectly fine bowlers. Our fielding is outstanding, best in the world, nearly, I'd say, out of all nations,
including Test nations.
Yes, our fielding is incredible, especially Porterfield, the captain. He's a wonderful athlete.
That'll be the hurling.
Yeah,
the kind of name.
Yeah, Porterfield.
Yeah. No, it's probably the polo he plays. But our fielding is absolutely brilliant. Even the bigger lads on the team, like Sterling, are actually really, really good.
Pointer.
Pointer. Pointer had actually a brilliant 6 in the final. He's kind of a fringe player, but he kind of hit this 6 that it was unbelievable power, flat bat to it, and he just smacked it over straight hit. So it was brilliant.
How narrow was that bat? Now would it have been?
That's we won't go into that, will we? Or
no, we don't have to.
We shouldn't.
Okay, we probably shouldn't. No, it was. So no, it was good. It was good, and hopefully, as I said, hopefully they'll cause an upset in October.
And what does this mean for our test status?
Well,
does it mean anything? Does it mean anything at all?
What was important was that we beat Afghanistan, because they beat us 2 years ago and they were our bogey team, and you can't really have the moral authority to say let us into tests if you continue losing to Afghanistan. They're the second best associate by miles, but you have to be way better. And to be honest with you, Bangladesh are a test nation, and they're a better team than all. I mean, if we play Bangladesh, they beat us more often than we beat them, but we would do better against the bigger teams than Bangladesh would because of our mentality. You know, this typical Irish thing of, you know, punching above your weight, fighting spirit and all that. Bangladesh give up really, really early in games. classic Bangladesh. You know?
So if you were to put a time frame on it between never, 10 years, 5 years, when do you see us?
I think there'll be a compromise. I think there'll be a way that we'll get to play way more test teams, but we won't actually be a legitimate test nation. I think that's really.
Do you see the World Cup staying as a test station only?
I think the compromise will improve that we won't be test status, but we'll get automatic qualifications into big terms. I hope they do that at least. You know, it'd be nice. Obviously,
you can always rely on them.
The ICC. Of all the sporting organisations, they're all awful. But although the rugby ones aren't too bad.
Well, they have their. I suppose relative to their counterparts in other sports, they're not. They're not as bad.
Golfing organisations and.
What do they have to do?
Well, they have to organise huge amounts of tournaments every year.
I don't know. Well, the European Tour have done very well in recent years. Given their players. So, you know, I look like an idiot now. But no, I think FIFA and the ICC could certainly challenge each other in terms of pure corruption and in terms of complete incompetence in other ways. Bertie Hearn would have done very well in either of them. That's basically the best thing you can say about them, or the worst. Right, so we'll move on to golf. We'll finish up with golf. Tiger Woods won his 72nd PGA Tour event. Pretty incredible. His first one for over 900 days. His first official one.
2.5 years. Pretty much.
He won his own tournament there a while back. But that's a bit like Arsenal winning the Emirates Cup. You know, who cares? Like, but yeah.
Bedlington winning the Bedlington Cup, the Lord Bedlington Cup.
Oh yeah, that was very good. Last night, Bob Rich bought this Bedlington Terriers team. It was a good documentary. Check it out. So yeah, Tiger Woods. He was so in command yesterday. Looked really ominous for everyone else. He was kind of way ahead of McDowell, who was also quite.
Yeah, I caught G-Mac's eagle, his second eagle of the day, and it looked. Tiger played a beautiful approach shot, and the commentator said, I mean, I bet he didn't think he'd be losing a shot on that hole, and he just powered away after that.
There was no. McDowell played fine, and it's great to see him back,
but
there wasn't any catch, and it was very reminiscent of the old days. Of that was the sixth time he'd won that, so he'd won it 5 times early, and you can just know that it was just like the other days. You used to produce tournament
on the week when the full copies of that book were
it was a great answer to
the news. It's a big statement to come out and
Hank Haney's book, I think, is out. I think it's out tomorrow.
Yeah, they said the news corporation's got a few copies there during the week.
Yes, my favourite revelation so far is that he was rooming in 2006 Ryder Cup in Ireland. He was rooming with Zach Johnson, and he ordered porn into the room because Zach Johnson's a devout Christian, and he wanted to make him feel uncomfortable. Which is just, what a
the quote like that. You should have seen him. He was trying to act all normal, and I was. I wonder, is that him kind of getting inside Zach Johnson's head? Like when it comes to a tournament, he really cares about, not the Ryder Cup.
Okay.
And he's on the back 9. He's just there looking at Johnson.
It just shows what a sociopath he probably is. Like, he was on the same team as Johnson. He was trying to unsettle him. No wonder Europeans always win the Ryder Cup.
One of the Americans hate.
Another great one was that he was watching the South Park episode where they ripped the piss out of him and his wife, and he absolutely loved the bits where they ripped it into Elin Nordian or whatever. It's just so spiteful. I suppose we got to take everyone with interest. And then there's the famous popsicle story, which just makes your man look like completely pathetic. He was like, I didn't know whether to ask him for a popsicle. For years he went up and got a popsicle after dinner, and I didn't know whether to get, obviously I'm quoting him here, I'd never use the word popsicle normally.
Well, certainly not outside a certain context.
I think Nike would be very interested to see whether those injuries were picked up during Navy SEAL training or not, because there's a lot of money on the line there.
Really?
It just proves the point, as I said a few weeks ago, he's become this kind of figure of fun, but
when he keeps 70 seconds every second.
That was just the point I was going to make. But if he's as good as he was last weekend, then that's all going to be forgotten about. And as you say, there was no better week he could have played golf like that, like he did at Bay Hill.
Well, they could have. The Masters.
Well, obviously,
that possibly would.
If there's any place where he's likely to turn it on, it's.
I think the last 2 years he's nearly won the Masters, and he's been half injured, / mentally
Maybe unstable.
Yeah, mentally in completely the wrong places. He's still, you see him being interviewed, and you just think, how did this guy get up to this? He's so robotic.
But when you look back, he was always like that. I mean,
but then where does the Zach Johnson thing and all that come from?
No, I'm sorry.
That's not very robotic, is it? You know,
like there's certainly like how much has to be repressed as a result of the guy's upbringing in the spotlight. We went over this.
Yeah, we did. And the story, just to add to that, was Eldrick. Sorry, is that the father? The father.
Yeah.
He went and met Nelson Mandela with Tadhg, and he said afterwards, finally, Tadhg has met someone who is his equal. And if that's your father, what chance do you have?
Yeah.
You know what
I also love that thing when his wife starts celebrating.
Oh God! And he
turns and says, "Don't do that. We don't do that. I'm supposed to win."
No,
and she didn't celebrate once.
What fun that marriage must have been.
The backstory was that she'd been a nanny to another player on tour,
Yes,
and every time he won, they threw a big party. Tadhg had a relative drought in his career. I think it was in 2005. Finally won a tournament. She got delighted, and Tadhg shot her down.
An odd human being, but one of the greatest sportsmen of.
You wonder, is that the length you have to go to become a serial winner?
Yeah,
it's an interesting one.
Jack Nicklaus never struck me as that kind of oddball, and he managed to win at
in
this moment
in this era.
He's won more. I know. I suppose in this era it's
interesting.
completely different. But I don't like the fact
that Ferguson's interpersonal skills.
There is the famous
They're questionable.
There is the famous one about Fergie who forgot to get his wife a gift for Christmas, and he got her a cheque, and he slept on the couch for a few weeks. That's that kind of example, you know, someone who's so driven.
Messi then seems.
Yeah, well,
that's someone who couldn't. Like, I mean, he couldn't play badly if he tried.
Well, if you really,
I'm sorry. That's a very big statement to make. I mean, one of the reasons that Guardiola has, I think one of the keys behind his success was he came in and he got rid of players he thought were a malign influence on the dressing room. And one of the major reasons he did that was he saw Messi and he thought that was a talent that could be corrupted by the likes of, a Ronaldinho, who was similarly talented, if maybe not quite as talented.
Interesting, if you look up just quotes from Ibra's book, it hasn't been translated into English, unfortunately, Ibrahimovic's book, but the whole thing is just about the Barcelona dressing room is just full of goody two-shoes. He described them as
of course you would.
No, but it's, they all love Guardiola, they hang on his every word, and
imagine that, a manager.
No, but like Messi would, the whole point about Messi's so normal, but it's still that idea of being driven, and that's what he said about they're all robots in the Barca dressing room. That's how he described them as, complete, just everything is just done on football. Whereas of course Ibra enjoys his extracurricular activities. And it's actually some of the quotes from it are absolutely brilliant. A lot of just Guardiola passion, which is interesting because the media is all very one-eyed on Guardiola, and obviously they should.
Yeah, for the world.
But there is some really good quotes, and
we're part of that media.
Yeah, completely. Right, so I think we're going to end it there this week. Kind of ran out of time once again. So I'd just like to thank producers Tadhg and Ciarán and Ags Flow on Sound, and this was the Sporting Chancers podcast episode 5. Presented by themeltingpress.com. Please look us up on Facebook and Twitter, and I'd like to thank contributors Colm Booth, Dave Hughes and James McDermott.
You're welcome.
Once again, I'm sorry.
You were first.
Sure,
I was, but now I want to be last because I think you've introduced yourself first, and I think if I'm last, it bookends it.
We'll
nicely.
see you next week.